The Galactic Museum hung like a crystalline bubble against the star-studded backdrop of the neutral zone. Its sleek architecture spoke of centuries of scientific preservation, a testament to interstellar knowledge and diplomatic neutrality. Inside this pristine environment, the research team from the Carlin Xenological Institute prepared for what they considered a routine assignment. Senior researcher Zach Still adjusted his multispectral scanning implants, his iridescent exoskeleton reflecting the soft museum lighting. He viewed the assignment with a mixture of professional boredom and academic superiority. A decommissioned human warship, the U.S. Defiant, awaited their comprehensive study, and Zach Still was certain it would be nothing more than a primitive technological curiosity. Around him, his team of 5 researchers moved with practiced efficiency. There was Lyra, the youngest member, whose emerald-scaled skin betrayed her perpetual curiosity. She stood slightly apart from the group, her eyes already drinking in every detail of the massive vessel before them. Unlike her colleagues, she saw more than just a collection of metal and circuitry. To Zach Still's right, Dr. Crenall, the team's chief mechanical analyst, was reviewing preliminary scan reports. His 3-fingered hands danced across a holographic interface, dismissive algorithms already preparing to categorize and minimize the human technological achievements. Another primitive design, he muttered, mandibles clicking with barely contained disdain. The U.S. Defiant was an imposing sight. Even decommissioned, the warship maintained an aura of potential energy. Its hull bore the marks of multiple engagements, subtle patches, reinforced sections, and modifications that spoke of countless improvised repairs. Where other species might have rebuilt or replaced, humans seemed to have a remarkable ability to adapt and overcome. Lyra's handheld scanner chirped unexpectedly. She tapped it, thinking it was a malfunction, but the readings remained consistent. Something about the ship's energy signature was unusual, not dangerous, but complex in a way that defied their standard analytical models. "Commander," she said, her voice carefully modulated to avoid challenging Zach Still's authority, "I'm detecting some anomalous background radiation patterns. They don't match any standard military vessel configuration in our database." Zach Still didn't even look up. "Calibration error," he responded automatically. "Humans lack the technological sophistication for complex energy management. Prepare the primary scanning array." But Lyra wasn't convinced. She zoomed in on the scanner's readings, her photoreceptive pupils dilating as she processed the information. The ship's exterior wasn't just a static shell. It seemed to be in a constant, microscopic state of reconfiguration. Tiny molecular adjustments that would be imperceptible to most scanning equipment were happening continuously. The museum's environmental controls hummed softly, creating a sterile backdrop to their preparations. Automated preservation systems kept the decommissioned warship in perfect condition, a frozen moment of human engineering preserved for scientific study. Dr. Crenall completed his initial sweep, turning to Zach Still with a dismissive gesture. "Preliminary scan complete. Exactly as expected. Rudimentary propulsion systems, basic defensive configurations, nothing remarkable." Something in Lyra's scanner continued to pulse, a rhythm almost like a heartbeat, persistent and insistent. She glanced at the massive vessel, feeling for the first time that they were not just studying an object, but preparing to engage with something far more complex than anyone on the team understood. Little did they know, the U.S. Defiant was about to teach them a lesson in humility that would shake the foundations of their understanding of technological innovation. The initial probe descended toward the U.S. Defiant with clinical precision. Zach Still's team had deployed their most advanced scanning technology, a multispectral quantum analysis array that could typically penetrate the most secure military vessels in known space. The device hummed with sophisticated energy, its quantum entanglement sensors designed to map every microscopic detail of the ship's internal structure. Dr. Crenall watched the holographic display with professional detachment, expecting nothing more than a straightforward technical assessment. His mandibles clicked rhythmically as he monitored the incoming data streams, ready to categorize and dismiss another example of human technological limitations. Lyra stood slightly apart, her scanner still chirping with those curious background readings from earlier. Something about the ship's response felt different. Where most vessels presented a static internal landscape, the U.S. Defiant seemed to be breathing, shifting, adapting, responding to the scanning process in ways that defied conventional understanding. The first anomaly appeared 17 seconds into the scan. A cascade of impossible data began flooding the research team's systems. Internal compartments that should have been fixed and rigid were demonstrating quantum-level flexibility. Power conduits twisted and reformed between scan cycles, creating impossible routing patterns that made no logical sense to the Carlin researchers. "This can't be correct," Crenel muttered, his professional composure beginning to crack. He recalibrated the scanning array, assuming a technical malfunction. But each subsequent scan returned similar results, a ship that seemed to be alive, responsive, almost sentient in its technological complexity. Lyra leaned closer to the holographic display, her emerald scales rippling with excitement. "The internal structural matrix is adaptive," she whispered, more to herself than to her colleagues. "It's not just reinforced. It's actively reconfiguring based on our scanning parameters." Zaxtil's patience evaporated. "Impossible," he declared, though his voice carried a hint of uncertainty for the first time. "Run a full diagnostic on the scanning equipment. These readings defy every known principle of engineering." The museum's preservation systems continued their subtle hum, seemingly unaware of the profound technological mystery unfolding before the research team. Each scan revealed new layers of complexity. What appeared to be simple maintenance tunnels transformed into sophisticated adaptive pathways. Backup systems nested within backup systems created a technological matryoshka of impossible redundancy. Power distribution networks showed patterns that resembled biological neural systems more than traditional mechanical engineering. Where other species designed linear, predictable power grids, this human warship presented a web of interconnectivity that seemed to anticipate potential failures before they could occur. "Look at this," Lyra said, her voice cutting through the growing tension. She isolated a specific section of the scan, revealing a network of microadapters integrated throughout the ship's structural framework. "These aren't just reinforcement mechanisms. They're active response systems that can redistribute structural integrity in milliseconds." Crenel's professional skepticism began to crack. The data challenged everything they understood about technological design. Each scan revealed not just a ship, but a complex, living system that seemed to learn and adapt with each moment of observation. The quantum analysis array continued its work, each pulse of energy meeting an unexpected response. The U.S. Defiant was no longer just a subject of study. It had become a challenge, a puzzle that refused to be solved through conventional means. Zaxtil felt something he hadn't experienced in decades of research: genuine, unfiltered curiosity. The dismissive attitude that had defined their mission was crumbling, replaced by a growing realization that they were confronting something far beyond their comprehension. As the final scan cycle completed, the holographic display flickered, not from a technical malfunction, but as if the ship itself was offering a cryptic response, a challenge, an invitation to understand something truly extraordinary. The first impossible scan was complete, but their true journey of discovery had only just begun. The ship's memory banks pulsed with an energy that defied standard data storage protocols. Lyra's specialized decryption module sparked and recalibrated itself multiple times as she attempted to access the archived information. What should have been a straightforward data retrieval became a complex dance of technological negotiation. "I've never seen anything like this," she muttered, her fingers dancing across multiple holographic interfaces. Each attempt to access the archive revealed layers of complexity that seemed to shift and adapt in real time. The data wasn't just stored. It was alive, responsive, challenging their every approach. Zaxtil watched with a mixture of professional frustration and growing fascination. The ship's memory system operated on principles that seemed to blur the line between technological storage and something more organic, Adaptive encryption layers wrapped around each data cluster, creating a maze of information that resisted traditional extraction methods. Dr. Crenell's diagnostic equipment began to malfunction. Sensors designed to parse even the most secure military archives stuttered and reset, overwhelmed by the ship's memory architecture. "This is impossible," he repeated, a mantra of scientific disbelief rapidly losing its conviction. After 3 hours of persistent attempts, Lyra discovered the first breakthrough. A tiny fragment of the archive opened, not as a simple data file, but as a contextual narrative that seemed to breathe with historical significance. The fragment detailed a critical mission from decades earlier, not just a clinical military report, but a comprehensive account that included technical specifications, crew personal logs, environmental challenges, and improvised solutions that defied conventional understanding. One entry described a critical system failure during a deep space exploration mission, where any other species would have considered the situation hopeless. The human crew transformed medical nanite systems into emergency power conduits. They repurposed life support equipment to generate additional computational power, creating a living network of technological improvisation that kept the ship operational. The archive wasn't just a record of events. It was a testament to human creativity, a narrative of survival that transformed technological limitations into opportunities for innovation. Lyra's hands trembled as she processed the information. Each new fragment revealed a philosophy of engineering that was entirely alien to her species. Humans didn't just design systems. They created living, breathing technological ecosystems that could adapt, transform, and survive against impossible odds. Another section detailed the ship's construction process. Unlike the linear, predetermined design approaches of other civilizations, the U.S. Defiant's development was a chaotic symphony of innovation. Design teams had deliberately built redundancy and adaptability into every system, creating a vessel that was more of a living organism than a traditional spacecraft. "Commander," Lyra called out, her voice a mixture of excitement and profound realization. "This isn't just a ship's archive. It's a comprehensive guide to human problem-solving." The archive revealed multiple instances where standard protocols were completely abandoned in favor of creative solutions. A damaged communication array reconstructed using repurposed medical equipment. Emergency life support systems jury-rigged from asteroid mining tools. Power distribution networks redesigned mid-mission to compensate for unexpected stellar radiation. Zack still approached the display, his previous academic smugness replaced by genuine wonderment. The archive painted a picture of a species that viewed technological challenges not as obstacles, but as opportunities for creative transformation. As the final fragments of the archive revealed themselves, the research team realized they were witnessing something far more significant than a simple historical record. This was a philosophical blueprint of human potential, a comprehensive guide to survival, innovation, and the relentless human drive to overcome limitations. The U.S. Defiant was no longer just a decommissioned warship. It had become a living testament to the extraordinary capabilities of a species they had previously dismissed as unremarkable. And their journey of discovery was only beginning. The combat logs materialized like spectral memories, each entry a window into impossible scenarios of survival and adaptation. Lyra's hands trembled as she began to parse through the historical records, her scientific detachment slowly giving way to a profound sense of awe. The first log entry detailed an encounter that defied every known principle of space combat. The U.S. Defiant had found itself trapped in a stellar storm, a catastrophic environment that would have obliterated most spacecraft within moments. Most species would have considered such a situation a certain end. The human crew saw it as a problem to be solved. Zack still leaned closer, his previous skepticism replaced by an intense curiosity. The log described how the crew systematically transformed every non-essential system into a survival mechanism. Medical nanite generators were recalibrated to reinforce the ship's hull integrity. Life support systems became improvised radiation shields. Communication arrays were repurposed into complex sensor networks that could predict and navigate through the most treacherous cosmic conditions. Dr. Crenell's translation algorithms struggled to process the sheer complexity of the narrative. This wasn't just a survival story. It was a comprehensive blueprint of human innovation under extreme pressure. Another log entry revealed an encounter with an advanced alien fleet, a scenario that should have resulted in immediate destruction. Instead, the U.S. Defiant transformed the engagement into a masterclass of adaptive strategy. When primary weapon systems failed, the crew used environmental scanning equipment to create complex electromagnetic interference patterns. They turned cargo transportation systems into makeshift defensive networks, creating a living shield that adapted faster than the attacking vessels could comprehend. "Look at this," Lyra whispered, her voice a mixture of excitement and disbelief. She isolated a specific sequence where the ship's waste recycling systems were transformed into an emergency power generation network. Where other species would have seen a critical system failure, the human crew saw an opportunity for survival. The combat logs were more than historical records. They were a philosophical treatise on human potential. Each entry demonstrated a fundamental approach to challenges that went beyond traditional military strategy. It wasn't about overwhelming force. It was about continuous adaptation, creative problem-solving, and a fundamental refusal to accept defeat. One particularly striking log detailed a mission where the ship lost 60% of its primary systems. Instead of surrendering, the crew began a systematic process of cross-system integration that would be considered impossible by any other species. Backup computing cores were transformed into navigation systems. Emergency medical equipment became sophisticated sensor arrays. The entire ship became a living, breathing organism of survival. Zack still felt his understanding of technological potential beginning to crumble. These weren't just combat logs. They were comprehensive case studies of innovation under the most extreme conditions imaginable. The U.S. Defiant wasn't just a warship. It was a mobile laboratory of human creativity. The final log entry in this sequence told a story that would haunt the research team for years to come. Trapped in an uncharted region of space, with no hope of external support, the crew managed to survive for 147 days using nothing more than their ingenuity and a willingness to reimagine every system at their disposal. Dr. Crenell's diagnostic equipment began to overheat, unable to process the complexity of the information. The ship's combat logs were breaking every analytical model in their database. "This isn't just a record of survival," Lyra said, her voice barely above a whisper. "This is a blueprint of human potential, a demonstration that limitations are nothing more than opportunities waiting to be transformed." As the final fragments of the combat logs resolved, the research team realized they were witnessing something far more profound than a simple military history. They were seeing the very essence of human innovation, a species that didn't just survive, but thrived in the face of impossible challenges. The U.S. Defiant had become more than a ship. It was a testament to the extraordinary capabilities of humanity. The museum's environmental systems hummed softly, a stark contrast to the internal turmoil consuming the research team. Zack still stood motionless, his exoskeleton seemingly frozen in a moment of profound existential crisis. The U.S. Defiant had become more than a research subject. It was a mirror reflecting the limitations of everything they believed they understood about technological innovation. Dr. Crenell was the first to show visible signs of professional breakdown. His diagnostic equipment lay scattered across the research platform, multiple systems overwhelmed by the complexity of their discoveries. Where most researchers would have approached such a situation with methodical precision, Crenell's mandibles clicked erratically, a clear indication of his mounting psychological stress. Lyra watched her colleagues with a mixture of scientific fascination and growing concern. The ship's evolutionary log was more than a technical document. It was a living narrative of continuous transformation that challenged every fundamental principle of technological development their civilization held sacred. The evolutionary log revealed a terrifying truth. Human technological progression wasn't linear. It was a chaotic, organic process of constant reinvention. Systems originally designed for one purpose were consistently reimagined, repurposed, and transformed. What other species would consider a fundamental limitation, humans saw as an invitation to innovate. A particularly striking section detailed the ship's communication systems. Where most species developed rigid, purpose-built networks, the U.S. Defiant's communication array was a living, adaptive organism. It could reconfigure itself based on environmental challenges, transform communication protocols on the fly, and create entirely new methods of information exchange when traditional systems failed. Zaxtil's professional facade began to crack. The research that was supposed to be a simple academic exercise had transformed into a profound philosophical challenge. How could a species they had dismissed as technologically primitive demonstrate such extraordinary capabilities? Dr. Crenel's breakdown became more pronounced. He began muttering fragments of the ship's logs, his professional training dissolving under the weight of their discoveries. Adaptive systems, he repeated, impossible reconfiguration. They don't follow any known technological principles. Lyra approached the ship's primary interface, her emerald scales rippling with an almost electrical excitement. The evolutionary log wasn't just a record of technological development. It was a comprehensive guide to a fundamentally different approach to problem-solving. One section detailed how the ship's medical systems had been consistently reimagined. Emergency medical equipment transformed into complex sensor arrays. Diagnostic tools became improvised communication networks. Each system was a testament to a philosophy of continuous adaptation that defied their understanding of technological design. The psychological impact spread beyond the immediate research team. Museum preservation systems began to respond differently to the U.S. Defiant, as if the ship's adaptive nature was subtly influencing its surrounding environment. Diagnostic interfaces flickered with impossible patterns of information exchange. "We've been looking at technology all wrong," Lyra whispered, her voice a mixture of excitement and professional revelation. "This isn't about creating perfect systems. It's about creating systems that can become whatever they need to be." Zaxtil's entire professional worldview began to deconstruct. The research mission that was supposed to confirm their species' technological superiority had transformed into a humbling lesson in human potential. Each new discovery peeled back another layer of their understanding, revealing a depth of innovation they had never imagined possible. Dr. Crenel's final breakdown came as he attempted to compile their research findings. The traditional academic reporting systems simply could not process the complexity of their discoveries. Conventional scientific language failed to capture the essence of what they had found. The U.S. Defiant was no longer just a research subject. It had become a living testament to the extraordinary capabilities of human innovation, a challenge to everything they thought they understood about technological potential. As the research team's psychological barriers began to crumble, one thing became abundantly clear. Their understanding of technology would never be the same again. The breakthrough came unexpectedly, like a quantum leap of understanding that shattered everything the research team thought they knew about technological innovation. Dr. Rodriguez's comprehensive research files, discovered deep within the ship's archives, presented a roadmap of human technological development that defied every known principle of scientific progression. Lyra's hands trembled as she began to parse through the documents. Each page was a testament to a radical approach to innovation that went beyond incremental improvements. Humans didn't just solve problems, they reimagined entire systems of technological understanding. The first section detailed a revolutionary approach to quantum computing that made their own species' most advanced systems look like primitive counting devices. Where other civilizations approached technological development as a linear process, humans saw it as a dynamic, organic ecosystem of continuous transformation. Zaxtil leaned closer, his previous skepticism replaced by an intense, almost desperate curiosity. The documents revealed how human research teams deliberately introduced controlled chaos into their technological development. They didn't seek perfection, they sought adaptability. A particularly striking segment described a breakthrough in adaptive nanomanufacturing. Traditional manufacturing processes created fixed, predetermined outputs. The human approach transformed manufacturing into a living, responsive system that could redesign itself in real time based on environmental challenges and emerging needs. Dr. Crenell's analytical systems struggled to process the complexity of the information. One diagram showed a manufacturing process that was less a production line and more a living, breathing technological organism. Nanoscale components could reconfigure themselves, create entirely new tools, and solve problems that hadn't even been anticipated. The research files painted a picture of technological development as a holistic, interconnected process, where other species specialized and compartmentalized. Humans created systems that could learn, adapt, and transform themselves continuously. A breakthrough in communication technology particularly caught Lyra's attention. The human approach didn't just transmit information, it created adaptive communication networks that could restructure themselves based on environmental challenges. What other species would consider a communication breakdown, humans saw as an opportunity for innovation. The psychological impact of these discoveries began to ripple through the research team. Their understanding of technological potential was being dismantled page by page, revelation by revelation. The U.S. Defiant was no longer just a ship, it was a comprehensive case study of human innovation. Zaxtil's professional facade crumbled completely. The research mission that was supposed to confirm their species' technological superiority had transformed into a humbling lesson in human potential. Each new discovery peeled back another layer of their understanding, revealing a depth of innovation they had never imagined possible. The final section of the research files presented the most shocking revelation. Humans didn't view technology as a set of tools. They saw it as a living, evolving ecosystem. Their approach to innovation was less about creating perfect systems and more about creating systems that could become whatever they needed to be. Dr. Crenell's analytical systems began to overheat, unable to process the sheer complexity of the information. Conventional scientific language failed to capture the essence of what they had discovered. The human approach to technological development was so fundamentally different that it challenged the very foundations of their understanding. "This isn't just research," Lyra whispered, her voice a mixture of excitement and profound realization. "This is a completely new way of understanding technological potential." The research team had set out to study a decommissioned warship. Instead, they had uncovered a comprehensive blueprint of human innovation, a testament to a species that didn't just adapt to challenges, but transformed them into opportunities for unprecedented growth. As the final pages of the research files resolved, one thing became abundantly clear: their understanding of technology would never be the same again. The U.S. Defiant had become more than a ship. It was a window into the extraordinary capabilities of human potential. The Galactic Scientific Council chamber was a marvel of architectural precision. Sterile, symmetrical, and designed to intimidate. Zaxtil stood at the presentation podium, his earlier confidence replaced by a complex mixture of scientific integrity and profound uncertainty. The research team's findings would challenge everything the Council believed about technological development. Lyra managed the holographic displays, her emerald scales reflecting the soft institutional lighting. Each image told a story more complex than simple technical data. They were windows into a revolutionary approach to innovation that defied conventional understanding. The Council members represented the most prestigious scientific minds from across 17 different galactic civilizations. Their collective gaze felt like a physical weight, a challenge waiting to be met. Dr. Crenell sat to the side, his diagnostic equipment carefully arranged, ready to support every claim with meticulous evidence. "Our initial mission was straightforward," Zaxtil began, his voice carefully modulated. "We were tasked with conducting a comprehensive analysis of a decommissioned human warship, the U.S. Defiant. What we discovered goes far beyond a simple technical assessment. The first holographic projection showed the ship's adaptive communication systems. Where other species created rigid, purpose-built networks, the human design was a living, breathing ecosystem of information exchange. Communication pathways could reshape themselves instantaneously, creating entirely new methods of data transmission when traditional systems encountered challenges. Whispers began to ripple through the council chamber. The presentation was taking an unexpected turn. Lyra stepped forward, presenting the most controversial findings. The ship's technological evolution wasn't linear. It was a chaotic, organic process of continuous reinvention. Systems originally designed for one purpose were consistently reimagined, repurposed, transformed. What other species would consider a fundamental limitation, humans saw as an invitation to innovate. The Council's senior researcher, a crystalline being from the Orcian Scientific Consortium, raised a formal objection. These findings challenge fundamental principles of technological development, he stated, his prismatic body reflecting the holographic displays with mathematical precision. Zach Still had anticipated this response. Precisely, he responded, his voice carrying a newfound conviction. Our research reveals a fundamentally different approach to technological innovation. Humans don't just solve problems, they transform the very nature of the problems themselves. A series of detailed projections demonstrated the ship's extraordinary adaptive capabilities. Medical nanite systems transformed into emergency power networks. Waste processing equipment became sophisticated sensor arrays. Each system told a story of innovation that defied conventional understanding. Dr. Krenel presented the statistical analysis, his diagnostic equipment generating complex probability matrices that supported their most radical claims. The numbers were undeniable. The human approach to technological development represented a paradigm shift that could revolutionize understanding across multiple scientific disciplines. The council chamber grew increasingly tense. Some members looked intrigued. Others appeared deeply uncomfortable. The U.S. Defiance story was more than a technical report. It was a challenge to their entire understanding of technological potential. Lyra's final presentation segment revealed the most profound discovery. Humans didn't view technology as a collection of tools. They saw it as a living, evolving ecosystem. Their approach to innovation was less about creating perfect systems and more about creating systems that could become whatever they needed to be. The senior researcher from the Orcian Consortium stood, his crystalline form catching the light. These findings are too radical, he declared. They challenge everything we understand about technological development. Zach Still met his gaze without flinching. That, he responded, is precisely the point. The presentation concluded not with a traditional academic summary, but with a fundamental challenge to the scientific community. The U.S. Defiant was more than a ship. It was a comprehensive case study of human potential, a testament to a species that didn't just adapt to challenges, but transformed them into opportunities for unprecedented growth. As the holographic displays faded, one thing became clear. Their understanding of technology would never be the same again. The museum's grand presentation hall fell silent as Lyra prepared to deliver their research findings. The weight of their discovery hung in the air, a moment that would reshape interstellar understanding of human potential. Zach Still sat in the front row, his once rigid posture now a testament to a profound transformation. The researcher who had begun this journey with academic smugness now understood the magnitude of their discovery. The U.S. Defiant was more than a ship. It was a comprehensive case study of human innovation. Lyra's presentation began not with technical specifications, but with a philosophical revelation. We came to study a decommissioned warship, she started, her voice steady and clear. What we discovered was a blueprint of human potential that challenges everything we thought we knew about technological innovation. The holographic displays behind her came to life, showing the intricate adaptive systems of the U.S. Defiant. Each image told a story of transformation, of turning limitations into opportunities. The audience, a collection of the galaxy's most prestigious researchers and scientific leaders, watched in stunned silence. She detailed their journey of discovery, how a simple research mission had unraveled their understanding of technological development. The ship's systems weren't just sophisticated, they were alive in a way that defied conventional understanding. Every component told a story of continuous adaptation, of reimagining possibilities moment by moment. Dr. Crenell, once the most skeptical member of the team, now sat as a transformed advocate. His previous dismissal had been replaced by a deep respect for human innovation. The research had fundamentally altered his understanding of technological potential. The presentation revealed how human technological development worked differently from any known civilization. Where others created fixed, predetermined systems, humans developed living, breathing technological ecosystems. Each challenge was an invitation to innovate, each limitation an opportunity for transformation. One section demonstrated how the ship's communication systems could entirely reconfigure themselves based on environmental challenges. What other species would consider a critical failure, humans saw as a moment of creative potential. The adaptive nature of their technology wasn't just a feature, it was a fundamental philosophical approach to problem-solving. Lyra's final segment struck at the heart of their discovery. The U.S. Defiant is more than a ship, she proclaimed. It is a testament to a species that doesn't just survive, but transforms every challenge into an opportunity for unprecedented growth. The museum's preservation systems seemed to pulse in response, as if the ship itself was acknowledging the moment. What had begun as a simple research mission had become a profound revelation about human potential. Zach still reflected on their journey. They had entered this mission with preconceived notions of technological superiority. Now they understood that true innovation wasn't about perfection. It was about adaptability, creativity, and a relentless drive to overcome limitations. The research team's findings would reshape interstellar understanding. No longer could any civilization dismiss humanity as a primitive species. The U.S. Defiant stood as living proof of their extraordinary capabilities. As the presentation concluded, a profound silence filled the hall. The gathered researchers understood they had witnessed something extraordinary, a fundamental shift in understanding technological potential. Lyra's final words echoed through the museum. We set out to study a human warship. Instead, we discovered a blueprint of human potential that will change everything we thought we knew about innovation. The U.S. Defiant was no longer just a decommissioned vessel. It had become a symbol of human innovation, a beacon of hope and potential for every species watching. In that moment, the galaxy's understanding of technological progress would never be the same again.